Hey guys, what's happening? It's Jake here from JTS Cosplay, back here with another video. Today we're starting pretty much on the building aspect of the axe for old mate Herod, which is over here. I'll show you that first. This is the life-size printout of me. I just scaled it up and then printed it to my size. Got a bit of reference imaging there and there. That is that for planning wise. That's just going to help me with scale and proportions and stuff like that. So like I said, first thing we're going to be working on is the axe. So what I've done, let me just show you here, is I've printed out this life size, same size as that over on here, and I've taped it all together and cut it out. So I have a good sort of template for the axe. So I have here some 10mm foam that I'm going to cut into, I think, 4 layers, and then just glue them all together and then sand it all down, make it look nice. This is just gonna go here and then come through here. I'm gonna have to bend it for the handle, obviously, and for the handle I'm gonna have it split here in the wrist part, and then sort of have it screw it together with these parts if you're going to focus, which you aren't. And then also for this part, I'm just going to have a T intersection and have this whole thing be able to slot in there so I can take it apart for transport. If you've watched the planning video, you know that this whole skull piece is actually going to be 3D printed. So I just have to get the model for that and then 3D print it over there on my CR10. And oh, if you're wondering what this big piece of PVC pipe is for, it's for this big tube here. I know it looks a bit bigger, but I'm gonna wrap it in foam anyway. So once it's wrapped in foam, it should be that size. So I gotta cut that to like that length. This piece here is going to be attached to this piece. Wait. Actually, no, this is going to be a separate piece that's just glued in after, because this is going to be done with the foam beveling that I got from Lumen's workshop. And do the wood grain on this, do the hand wrap. This is red. I'm going to have to extend it a bit, but if we take a look over here, you can see that it comes here behind him. So I'm guessing it comes to about here. And I don't know what sort of end it has, but I'm just going to give it a bit of a flat end. That is what I'm about to do, pretty much just trace all that out and cut it all out, but I'll walk you guys through it and I'll show you what and how I'm going to do it. So I'm professional again, but anyway, let's just get to it. So first off, I started cutting up the template into a few different pieces that I could transfer to foam. Once I've traced them out on foam, I had to trace them out actually 4 times because I wanted a thickness of 40mm, and this is 10mm EVA foam. So next up was heat forming the PVC pipe that's going to run through the foam handle. So I just marked a few points with Sharpie that is where it bends on the template, and then I just sort of heated that up, put it on the template and bent it as I needed. Now it was time to actually glue all these pieces together. So I'm just using some contact cement in a squeeze bottle, and then I'm just using a flat piece of foam to spread it all out evenly. The bottom piece actually is for the handle, or both pieces are for the handle, but the middle 3 pieces actually had the cutout in them so the pipe could fit in there properly. I needed to do a bit of cutting away to make sure it fit in snugly, otherwise it was just going to bulge out and not look very good. I was then able to insert the pipe itself into the 4 layers of foam and add the 5th and final layer, which was the top. If you're not really experienced with contact cement, it's an awesome glue. I love it for foam especially, and fabric, things like that. But what you do is you apply it to each side of the foam or whatever you're gluing together, and then you wait till it dries completely or it's just a bit tacky, and then you sandwich the layers together and it creates an amazing bond. But the cool thing is you can accelerate the heating up time with a heat gun. Just don't go too much and dry it too much. Now that all the rough pieces of foam were glued together, I could grab the templates again, put them on top and trace them out perfectly, ready for cutting on the scroll saw.
So once that all the foam pieces were cut out, I needed to go back to the templates that had a beveled edge on them and cut out where the edge stops. So I did this to all the pieces that had the beveled edge, so mainly just the main big blade and the top blade, and then I just traced it so I knew how far to go back to once I was sanding and sculpting down the edge. Now it was time to do the most time-consuming part of this whole build. It was my first time doing it, and I actually really enjoyed it. It was a bit of a struggle, and I did learn a lot while doing it, but patience is the key, and actually look at what you're doing. And another big tip, which I completely ignored, but I knew I should have done, it was always sharpen my blade or put in a new blade. Once all the carving work that I could do with my Stanley knife was done, I decided to take the handle and the top of the axe point, the handle point I guess, to the belt sander, as it really helped smooth that out round wise. But for all the other blade parts, mainly the big blade and the top of the blade, I used my little mouse sander, and this was super helpful and worked a treat for these blade parts. After all that, I just took a few different grits of sandpaper, getting smoother as I go up, and just took down the edges, took down any rough spots, made just the edge smoother because it did have a rough texture left from the mouse sander.
So for the main axe part, I'm just going to cut a slot here with a Dremel in it so I can slide this in, and inside there I have this plan to screw or pop rivet in a T-connector, and that will be at the back, and then I can put a piece of pipe through here that will fit into the T-connector, so that will be solid. And then outside the T-connector have another piece of pipe here and have a screw attachment on here on the end, so it can screw into that and that can look flush. And the pipe also has to be covered in that bevel there, so that gold bevel, so I have those bevels as well. So yeah, I'm just gonna go do that, and then it will be time for more details. So we're just back inside now. I got a lot of that done. You didn't see much because it was just messy and I was trying to work things out on the go, but I will show you now. So this is where I'm at right now. I have this pipe here, the one that I showed you, and it looks super messy, but it works. Okay, so this pipe here is for the back of here, which I have bored out with just with a Dremel, same with the hole as well. So that pipe goes into the hole, and I had to Dremel it out for this. If you're wondering what that is, so that's a piece of pipe there that had been flattened down so I could screw it into the T-connector, because it has to come out here. So that's the screw connector, and so that goes in there. Once that's sandwiched, screwed down, there's so many holes because I messed up that many times, but it works. And then I just have some super messy foam little bits there, spaces for when the other screw connection goes in, so this doesn't wobble. It wobbles a bit now in there, but that's just because the other screw connector isn't in there. So this goes in there, that feeds into there, and then we have my handle here, which has another screw connector, and that screws into the bottom there. So I'm going to screw that all together and then show you guys, and then I can start on wrapping this in foam. And then once that is wrapped,
I'm going to start on this, or gluing this to here. When covering something cylindrical, I always make a ruler out of the foam that I'm actually going to be wrapping it with. So I did that, sanded the pipe down, and then cut out a piece that I could glue, and then using contact cement, I just made my way around the foam and the pipe and glued that super snug. Once it was all glued, I pretty much just grabbed my Stanley knife and cut out the big hole and trimmed it all up nicely, and then I started tracing out where I wanted my big spike to lay out. So I marked that out with a pen, sanded both sides, added some contact cement, and then glued that together. So once that was all glued on, I thought this would be such an awesome opportunity to use some foam clay from Lumen's workshop. This was my first time using it, and I used it pretty much as a sealer to seal up that seam there, because the bottom of the axe top was flat and obviously the cylinder is cylindrical, so I just filled that gap with some foam clay and it worked out nicely. I'm super happy with how it goes, and I'm definitely going to use it in the future. I then had to add the foam beveling that goes around the edges of the cylinder, and this is actually from Lumen's workshop as well, and they just already create a well done foam bevel that you can pretty much just cut and wrap around whatever you need, so you don't have to make it yourself, which is super awesome and came out super helpful for this build. Next up was actually something I was super psyched for, and that was actually burning in the wood grain into the handle and to the top axe part, handle part, I don't know what you want to call it, the spike at the top. But yeah, I just wanted to use my soldering iron. I pretty much just burnt in all the texture with the soldering iron, and it was fairly easy. The hardest part for me was making it look organic enough with the lines that I drew in with the Sharpie. Foam clay does take 24 hours to cure completely, so I'd waited that and then grabbed my Dremel with the grinding bit and pretty much just sanded that down smooth.
Hey guys, so as you just seen, I just printed this in some translucent red filament. I was planning on having sort of the middle part, the whole thing glow, but I'm not too happy with the red, and the infill also shows through, so I tried to print it hollow, but it didn't really work. So I'm gonna end up just painting this whole thing, and I think some of the light might still shine through. If not, I'm just gonna have really the eyes and the nose shine through. So that shouldn't be too bad anyway. But yeah, so what I'm going to do now is sand this raw PLA and then spray it with some primer filler, and then sand that back, spray it with primer filler, and so on. So I'm just going to repeat that step until this is ready to be painted.
I used about 3 to 4 coats of primer filler to get this up to standard for painting for me, and then next was primer. For most spray rattle can stuff, I always get Rust-Oleum. I just think it goes on the best. Once the primer was all dry, I laid it down on the foam axe and then traced it all out. As the cylinder piece is cylindrical and my 3D printed piece is flat, I had to cut out a slot, and now it fits super flush, which is super awesome. I'm glad that it all went really well. So now I just got to do it for the other side.
So that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you for watching. I'm super happy with how this is coming out. Obviously, I haven't attached the skull on here yet, as I do want it separate for painting, and I'm gonna have to do some cutting out of this to put the lights in. I've got a few other little things that I want to do it's gonna help with not having that attached, such as, like, say, magnets and stuff like that. So that's the plan now, is prime this, get it all painted, ready to go, and then I can start attaching everything, and you guys will see that in the next episode, where I will cover the painting and the LEDs and something special that I think I'm going to do, which I think will turn out really cool. So yeah, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video and hopefully you learned something. This is the first time I've ever done something like this, and I've really enjoyed it. I love working with foam. It's super forgiving, and it's actually not that expensive either compared to other materials. So if you're keen for the next video, definitely hit subscribe so you don't miss it. This has been super fun. I will see you in the next one.